How's everybody doing? Good. We're excited. This is one of the best times of year, training camp. We're excited to be back out there on the field as a team. Today today's practice number 5 for us. Had 4 practices already. A couple in pads, so you're getting to see some guys get back into the swing of things, I think, and get back into getting into football mentality. That transition from off-season training and conditioning into football. Final exams just ended yesterday, so today's really the start of training camp for us today, where there's no other distractions. You just get football right now for a whole week. We don't have a long time of it, just because we're a little bit of a disadvantage with our academic schedule here at Mississippi State. The classes start so early before other schools that we have a real small window in which we could have a training camp in. So we have to try as best we can to take advantage of this next week of football time for us. But excited about the team we have coming back. I know a lot of people. We lost a lot of good players last year. A lot of players moved on to graduate and moved on to other careers in their life. A bunch moved on to go play professional football. Others into business. Others into education. Guys have moved on from last year's teams. This is a whole new team, but there's even though there'll be a lot of new faces, there's a lot of recognizable faces that are coming back, and we're excited about that. On offense, I think it all starts with our quarterback. We need him to have the best year of his career. And I think he's really driven himself and pushed himself this offseason, put himself in a position to be able to do that. You look at some of the new faces that we're excited to see. At the running back position, there's going to be familiar faces with Ashton Shumpert and Brandon Holloway. But at Dontavian Lee and Eris Williams, who waited their opportunity to get that opportunity down, trying to take advantage of it. At the receiver position, I think we only have officially one returning starter back, even though I think we have a bunch of guys that have started games coming back, and a bunch of guys that have pretty good numbers coming back, with Fred Ross, Fred Brown, Gabe Miles, Joe Morrow. Those are all non-starters coming back that have pretty legitimate numbers at the receiver position. So I think we do have a lot of depth there, maybe more than what people what it looks like possibly on paper. Offensive line, going to be some new faces, on the offensive line this year. A lot, is going to be at the center position. That's kind of the guy that leads the offensive line for us, and a lot of pressure on Jamal Claiborne to take that spot and go be the center that we need him to be the leader up front of that whole group. But you look at him at the right tackle, you have Justin Sr., a multi-year starter back, Justin Mullen, a multi-year starter back. So there's experience around him on either side. Then the right guard and left tackle spot, we'll look at guys competing to try to win those jobs on the offense side of the ball. So we feel pretty good about it that way. Both our kickers have experience coming back. When you look at special teams, our long snappers returning. Logan Cook has kicked off. Has punted. I think he's actually even attempted a field goal in a game. Devin Bell has punted, kicked off, and done field goals. I think he kicked a 50-yard field goal in the Gator Bowl 4 years ago. So you look at that. There is some experience with the kicking positions coming back with those guys, a little bit older, a little bit more mature, and so we feel pretty good about the special teams game for us. On defense. Looking back now, and even you see the difference between spring and now, where we held out Tevez Calhoun and held out Kendrick Market in spring. You see them back out there on the field. It's a different feel in the secondary right now. When you have that different feel in the secondary, you add that with Will Redmond, even though he hasn't been a starter, has a bunch of experience, and then at the other safety position, when you have a Deontay Evans, you have a Kevon Coleman, a Brandon Bryant, who we expect big things out of. Where you're excited, you look and you say, boy, the secondary is maybe a little deeper than we thought it would be. Linebacker, obviously lost some great playmakers at linebacker with Benardrick McKinney, a top NFL draft pick, an All-American. Matt Wells, who probably our most valuable player on defense last year, to me. Those are tough guys to replace, but when you look at it with some younger faces coming in there, you still have Richie Brown, who was an SEC Defensive Player of the Week last year. You have Beniquez Brown at inside linebacker. You have Des Harris, who's back now off of injury, out practicing, and Gary Green, who we've been excited to get out on the field. You get out to our Nickel Sam player out there, you know, to replace a Matt Wells. You got a young guy in J.T. Gray that didn't redshirt last year, got a little experience on the field. Zach Jackson's played a lot of football, and a Trevor Jung, a young junior college kid, trying to fight for that spot and fill that gap. D-line, to me, is probably where, you know, we have to see the most guys step up, because as a whole, you know, you look at losing a P.J. Jones, Curtis Burgess, a Caleb Ewells, a Preston Smith. That's a lot of guys that played. We like to roll guys in on that defensive line. Not just productivity, but a lot of snaps that were being played at that. So there's a lot of opportunity, even though, you know, you feel good with, you know, Ryan Brown, A.J. Jefferson, Chris Jones. Those guys have played a whole bunch of football. For us to be able to rotate the defensive line the way we want it to, those are the guys that are the younger guys on the defensive line that maybe haven't had a whole lot of experience, are going to have to step up. You know, at defensive end, when you have John Calvin and Will Coleman, you know, they don't have much experience, but we need them to step in and play right away. Braxton Hoyette and Corey Thomas on the inside got to be able to step up and perform for us at a very, very high level. So, you know, that's a part that we're going to see, and but I like the effort. I know David Turner does a great job with our defensive line, and he'll get those guys ready, and we'll have them ready to go play when we kick it off in a big in-state rivalry down in Hattiesburg. So.
Questions? Allie, we're going to mic to you. Andy.
Coach, you've known Dak since he was a high school kid. What did it mean to see him on the cover of Sports Illustrated? You know, big-time national publication. You know it's regional, but you know it.
You know what? I think it is. It's pretty fantastic. It's you know, I think it's a huge honor for our program and our university. Actually, I think it's the third time we've been on the cover of Sports Illustrated in the last 8 or 10 months, which is an awful lot. I think that's a huge honor for our university. But for an individual like Dak, a young man, that, you know, he chose Mississippi State because we believed in him. You know, and we thought what he could become, and then to see him accomplish those goals. That's why you coach. You know, to see young people achieve goals and live out dreams in their life, and know that you are a part of that. That you know, I mean, they had to go do it, but you are a part of helping them accomplish goals that they have in life. Not that being on the cover of Sports Illustrated is probably one that you write, but I'm sure any kid that's a football player, you're thinking like that's not a bad deal to get on that cover. So any athlete, and so I think that's kind of a neat honor, and just happy to be a part of it.
Coach, you mentioned Matt Wells being MVP last year. At his pro day here, he runs in the 4.3s. Is there anybody in that linebacker group this year with that kind of speed?
I mean, it's hard. I don't know. There's not many 6'2", 225 guys that run 4.3 in the world. But you know, I mean, J.T. Gray's probably the guy that's going to be closest to doing that. One of the fastest linebackers, one of the fastest guys on the field, a low 4.4 guy for us. You know, Matt's different. You know, for us, one of the mistakes you can get into as a coach is try to replace. Say, okay, who's going to fill that role? Like I said, I mean, I wish I had a roster full of 6'2", 225-pound guys that run 4.3s. I mean, we'd be pretty freaky on defense. There's not many of them. So what you got to do is look at what the guys that are here, what they do well, and make sure we build around their strengths. Instead of trying to find and say, hey, we had this guy that was a special talent. He's not here. Now what do we do? You know, I mean, or who can fill that role? Well, it's going to be hard because we don't have anybody physically that's that type of person.
Malcolm Johnson was so big in opening up that offense, that tight end position, used him in multiple ways. Has anybody stepped in and gotten close to what he was able to do?
Well, we feel really good with Gus Wally. You know, I mean, Gus was our backup last year, and you know, got to keep Gus healthy. I think he's really ready in his development, his maturity to step into that role and be able to give you what Malcolm gave you last year. You know, a guy that you can flex him out in the perimeter, you can bring in motion him as an H-back, you can line him up as tight end. You know, he's going to be able to bring a lot of different aspects to his game and bring it onto the field and create mismatch problems. Behind him, it's a wide open race right now, you know, and that's what we got to see. But, you know, we got Darian Hutcherson there. You got B.J. Hammond trying to compete. We got two young kids, Justin Johnson and Farrod Green, trying to learn it. And what we want to do is just see who's the guy. You know, at that position to me, we asked him to do so much. So, you know, it's one of those, you have to be good at a lot of different things and who can bring the most to the table at that position and find somebody that can, to get to that number 2 spot.
Dan, when was it that you guys started thinking about Rufus Warren making the switch to left tackle? And I guess as he's put on the weight, has he kept the athleticism and the things he...
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you know, it was always a fight for him. You know, he'd be at 280 and we'd be like, all right, you got to slim down to 270, to get down to be able to function at tight end. And it just kind of became a situation for us where you're almost fighting the inevitable. Instead of, trying to make him lose this weight and try to stay as small as he can to be tight end, hey, go have another burger at lunch and eat a biscuit at breakfast and go play left tackle. And so I think that really became an easy adjustment as we were looking at that for him to go try to make that move and really just fill his body out to what his natural size is.
Dan, what's the likelihood that Damian Williams could redshirt this year?
I'm 50-50. All right, I don't know, maybe he will. 50% chance he will, 50% chance he won't. That's one of those with, obviously there's that opportunity there for him to do that, but it's hard for us to say. I mean, I would have thought he was going to redshirt his freshman year. That didn't happen that way for us. So, you never know how things are going to play out.
Dan, you've said that, the term returning starters is kind of a misleading stat sometimes. But to you, is there a big difference between a guy that maybe played second string, played a big role, and then being counted on? Is that overblown, or is that something, how does that transition happen?
No, I think, I think there's also different deals of second string guys, If you're a rotator, if you rotate, I don't really know that you are a second string guy because, if your rep count is up pretty high, you have a lot of experience. Now, you might not play the first play of the game or maybe be in the spotlight of dealing with the pressure of being a starter, but on the field, with the other things that come outside with being a starter, but on the field, you have that experience. And so that's where I see it. I think to me, I look at Will Redmond for us as a returning starter. He might not have played the first play in every game, but he played the last plays in a lot of games, and with the game on the line. There's a lot to that out there when you look at that, in my mind. Where at other positions, you might say Devin Desper, who started a game last year for us at right guard, maybe he didn't get the number of reps. We don't rotate as much on the offensive line. We didn't last year. So even though he has experience and he started a game, he's going to be a different level than maybe a Will Redmond or a Richie Brown, even at that position. So I think it is. To me, you almost want to look, if you want to look at experience of a team, look at career snaps. How many times have they played a live snap in a game? If a kid's played over 150 snaps during his career, he's played a bunch of football. Basically played over, normal game. I think we have Benardrick McKinney played 45 plays a game last year. So if you played over 150 snaps, you've played well over 3 full games in your career on the field. And so if you have those type of numbers, to me, you have the experience that, I don't view you as not as a return starter. You have the experience to go play, or we're not going to think it. And the starting role is going to be, honestly, a lot more of your name being on the Jumbotron, being up in front of the media, because the starters are usually the ones that get called up and handling some of those other pressures that are out there.
Have you ever had a freshman quarterback with as much preparation as Nick Fitzgerald, 2 bowl camps, 2 springs, and a fall?
And he's a freshman still, right? So he's had, I think it's certainly helping him, putting him in a position to be ready to go compete. The first, he got 3 practices or 4 practices in that first bowl prep for him. But what it was neat for him, I think, is that adjustment. I bet you he couldn't even tell you what he did or what play he ever ran in any of those things. But it allowed him to prepare to get ready to have a spring football last year and get ready for a season. And, so I think it is. He's a guy that has not, I'm excited to get him in a game to get him that game experience, because he certainly had a bunch of practice experience before he's going to have that first opportunity to step on a field.
Kind of follow up my last question, when you maybe redshirt, Nick James, I think his second year, and maybe thinking about with Damian in his
Yeah.
third, when it's unconventional like that, and not the first year I guess they're on campus, what's that conversation like with the player?
Well, I mean, it's actually easier sometimes when they're older, because they've been in it, they understand, all the freshmen, all the kids that we got, all the freshmen, they all want to play. Their last taste of football was flipping hats on signing day, putting things on, right, and doing interviews nonstop with everybody in this room and the biggest media attention there is. Now I'm a quarterback that got all this hype just early in February, and now I walk into a room, and if I'm in there and we're going to watch, if I put all the quarterbacks in this room right now, I know there's not one. I know there's one that's going to get talked to an awful lot less than another one. And the one that was getting all that attention during recruiting is going to be sitting by himself in the corner. And the guy that's been here for 5 years is going to have a swarm of people around him. And so that's a lot of pressure that comes. So it's always, and so those guys are used to, those freshmen coming out that are first year guys are used to the hype, and I'm the guy and I want to go play. I think when you're a little bit older, you understand the system, you know what goes on, and you're looking at it in a very different, mature fashion about your career and your long-term career of what's best for you, more than, hey, just a couple months ago, I was like the most talked about player here, and now nobody really wants me. I got to get on the field. I want that attention still, and you're not really looking at it in terms of your development in your career.